Creepy experiences at a resident facility. I worked as an LANA licensed nursing assistant for this nice resident facility in Concord, NH. The first year I worked there, I volunteered to work a night shift after a long day shift because we were short-staffed. After all the residents went to bed, all the LANAs gathered in the floor lounge to get our books done and up to date. We were in there for quite a while when a light went off at the end of the hall. Knowing this resident most likely needed the restroom, I rushed to her side. When I entered, I saw a black floating mist above her. She was hysterical, pointing to the mist and saying it was here to get her. I am not a religious person, but wanted to calm her, and I knew I could not acknowledge the mist above her. It is not unusual for these kind of strange things to happen in these types of facilities. I turned off the light and held her hand. We prayed. The mist vanished. I calmed her down and stayed with her until she went back to sleep. I creeped out of her room and went back to the lounge. I reported what I saw to the others, but we cannot report it in our books. I found out that this mist had been seen in several rooms on the night shift for weeks. Another experience. I was working with a night shift LANA that volunteered to work the day shift on my floor. I was friends with him outside of work, as we were both writers. It was getting to the end of our shift, and we had brought our residents to the bathroom and readied them for activities that took place in the basement where most of the administration was located. The other LANA and I brought our last residents to the activity and were walking back to the elevator. We were not walking the stairs, even though it was just one flight up. It was a long day. We saw someone walk out of the bathroom ahead of us and went around the corner to the elevator. I holler, "Hold that elevator." We were only seconds behind. We turned the corner, but no one was there. The other LANA and I just looked at each other. There was no place that this person could have gone. It was a dead end. I asked if I was going crazy. "Did you see that person?" The other LANA agreed. "Where did they go?" It took forever for these elevators to go from floor to floor, and this time of day there were tons of visitors and the change of shifts. The elevators would take longer to get back down to the basement. One of our residents turned 100 years old, and she had called me in to read a letter she received from the President of the United States, George W. Bush Jr. At the time, I had a few days off from work. When I returned, I had heard the awful news that she left us in her sleep. The nurse on duty on that floor in our staff meeting read a note that her alarm light kept going off. Just then, the panel showed a light going off in that room. I thought it was the roommate. I volunteered to see what she needed. I entered the room, and the roommate was nowhere to be found. The light was coming from the empty bed of the resident that passed. I shut it off, thinking it was a fluke. After that, it seemed to keep going off minutes after you shut it off. I volunteered to go to the empty top floor where we kept the extra supplies to get a new plug. I came back down and replaced the plug. Before I left the room, the light went off again. I removed the plug, but forgot the fail-safe that if you remove the plug for any length of time, the light would go off. Just then, I asked the nurse, "Did anyone leave the window open after she passed?" The nurse looked at the note. "Nope. No one did that." It is not unusual that after a passing in a residential facility, you open the window. It is the belief that it allows the spirit of the deceased to escape. I reattached the plug and opened the window. At the end of my shift, I closed it. The light never went off for the rest of my shift after I opened the window. The next day there were no reports of that light going off.